Welcome to the HBM Test and Measurement FAQ video series. I'm Lyle Hockey, an HBM Applications Engineer. In this video, I will demonstrate how to add CAN channels to an eDAQ TCE setup. In a TCE setup, CAN channels can be applied to an ECOM CAN port, an ELCOM CAN port, or a CAN vehicle bus module. Also supported and not pictured is the legacy high-level board with vehicle bus. For this demonstration, I will be adding J1939 CAN channels to an eDAQ Lite with an ELCOM layer. The same procedure can be used to add CAN channels to an existing TCE setup. The CAN channels will be pulled from the default J1939 CAN database that resides on the eDAQ. The first step is to open TCE and get connected to the eDAQ. Next, open a new TCE setup by selecting the File menu and select New Setup, or select the O button in the TCE toolbar. Click on the F1 key on the TCE toolbar or press keyboard function key F1 to open the hardware setup window. Next, query the eDAQ hardware by selecting the Query button. In the table of hardware, select a vehicle bus CAN port that you want to assign a CAN database to. Select the Config button. You can also double-click on the CAN port of interest to assign a CAN database and configure the CAN port. To apply CAN channels from the J1939 eDAQ CAN database and to configure the CAN port, select the J1939 CAN database. Next, click on the Hardware Interface Specifics button to open the CAN Interface Setup dialog. Select a baud rate from the drop-down menu. The baud rate will be determined by the CAN bus or CAN transducer. When working with a CAN device or a CAN transducer that requires power, such as a SOMAT CR module, enter a voltage into the transducer power field. Leave this field at 0 volts if power is not required by a CAN transducer. If the eDAQ is the only CAN device wired to the CAN bus, check Enable Internal Termination. If there are more than one device or eDAQ on the CAN bus, uncheck Enable Internal Termination. Click OK, and then click OK. To add CAN channels to the TCE setup, press the F2 key on the keyboard or select F2 in the TCE toolbar to open the Transducer and Message Channel Setup window. Next, click on the Add button, then select the appropriate vehicle bus hardware. Then click the OK button. Hold down the Control key and using the mouse, click on the channels that you want to add to the TCE setup. Click OK. There's now a list of channels that can be added to the eDAQ data modes. Open the data mode setup window by pressing the F4 key on the keyboard or selecting F4 in the TCE toolbar. In the data mode setup window, click on the Add button. Select the data mode and click OK. Select the CAN channels by clicking and dragging or holding down the Control key and selecting channels. Click OK. TCE requires that data modes contain channels of the same sample rate. No matter the sample rate, keep GPS, CAN, and analog channels in their own separate data modes. That way, if a CAN bus is interrupted or a GPS cable is damaged during a test run, the analog data will continue to be collected. Now that you have the data modes added to your eDAQ setup, you can initialize your eDAQ and begin test control. That concludes this video on adding CAN channels to an eDAQ setup. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, please feel free to call or send an email to HBM support.